If you're a real estate agent and feel like you're doing everything right, but your business still isn't growing, I can guarantee you're missing something obvious. And it's not what you think. In fact, almost every coach and YouTube video is pointing you in the wrong direction. And I'm gonna show you the real reason your business isn't scaling and exactly how to fix it today. But here's the thing, most agents don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they get trapped in a cycle that almost guarantees they'll quit. And I'll show you how to break free from that in this exact video. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna make this extremely simple for you to understand. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna walk you through a step-by-step action plan you can do today in order to solve this problem so that today, everything changes. Your business starts to grow today after this video. So this is the model every single business follows in its simplest form. You have raw attention. Then you've got a service or a product and it turns into money. So you've got raw attention in, you have some sort of service and product, and you get money out, right? In, out, attention, money. Here's where the majority of agents go wrong, is that they're doing one of two things. They're either looking at this raw attention, and there's multiple ways that a real estate agent can get raw attention. So let me map this out very quickly for you, which is that you could be doing something like social media. You could be doing cold calling. You could be doing door knocking. You could be doing networking events. You could be doing YouTube. There's a variety of ways that you can generate raw attention. Here's where most agents go wrong. They go wrong by doing one of two things. The first thing is either they start gaining raw attention by, for example, with cold calling. And then their cold calling isn't converting, and I'll get to why that is. And so instead of getting better or doing more cold calling, they end up doing one of two things. They either go directly to another format of generating raw attention, or they spend time playing with their black box. And what their black box is their service. And they say, maybe I'm not getting enough money because I don't provide a good enough service, and I need to start working on my CRM, or I need to start working on my listing presentation, or I need to start working on systems, or I need to start working on processes. And they start tinkering with the black box, which is their service. Almost every agent that I know can do a good job when they actually get a client. And so if we actually boil it down, the real problem for the majority, 99% of real estate agents, is going to be getting raw attention. Now let me explain the really critical part here, which is that if you want to scale your business, the answer almost always is going to be way more raw attention that you're currently getting. Figuring out your service is easy. Getting the money after the service, meaning you close the actual deal, is easy. This is where most people go wrong, is that they don't have a good source of getting attention, and they're not that good at the source that they choose to get that attention. And so the solution in its simplest form for any real estate agent, if their business is not growing, is going to be getting more raw attention, because I'm pretty sure you can do a good job of the service and that's going to get you paid. So how do we actually boil this down? Well, here's where a lot of agents go wrong. This is something really important for you to understand, which is the Dunning-Kruger effect. So let's say you decide to get started and you're going to choose to cold call. Here's what happens with the majority of agents and why their business is not growing. They start out here, low confidence, they know nothing, right? You can see here on the scale, confidence low to high, and then you can see wisdom, which is gonna be know nothing to guru level or an expert. I hate the word guru, so let's get rid of that, but expert. So here's what happens with most agents. They say, I'm gonna start cold calling. That's gonna be how I'm gonna get raw attention into my black box or my service. Well, they watch a bunch of YouTube videos, they go to seminars, they do all kinds of stuff in order to learn, and they start to do it. And they're like, oh, wow, this actually works. But it's uninformed optimism, because what they don't realize is making the call works, But then once they've actually made the calls, they end up getting to this peak of Mr. Stupid, as it's called, because they don't realize that converting them is an entirely different ball game, and it's very easy to make a call, but it's very difficult to get contact information by properly handling their objections, understanding psychology, and being able to then get and extract leads from the calls that go out. So what happens? They get all excited. They start realizing, oh my God, I'm making these calls, but I'm not getting any leads. And then they go down here, which is the valley of despair, which is where they know a little bit, but they're extremely disappointed because they're not getting the results that they're expecting. Where do most agents go wrong? Because you can see that this historically happens with any new activity that you do. Well, if you continued on, you would be on this trajectory here, which is the slope of enlightenment, meaning, oh wow, I fixed it, I stayed with it, and I'm actually getting a little bit better. And then you've got the plateau of sustainability, which means you're just great at it because you've done it for long enough. Here's where most agents go wrong, is that they've got their little chart here, and they go up, and this is the chart, right? Most agents end up starting here, they get up here where they're all excited, they go down here to the valley of despair when they realize they're not converting. And instead of learning on how to get better at it, they say, it's the method. Cold calling is not for me. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start on Instagram. What happens? Every single time they go up, down like this, and then they start on Instagram. They get all excited. They realize they're posting but not getting any leads. They go down to the valley of despair. They realize here, and then they're like, oh, damn. It's not that, it's door knocking. And then I'm going to do, and this is the endless cycle that happens with agents. Is they start something, they get all excited about it because they watched a YouTube, a webinar, a presentation in person. They try it, they're proud of themselves for taking action, but they don't realize they actually have to stay consistent and get good at it. And on the other side of that valley of despair, every single time is getting better. So if we look at this in more detail, we can take a look here. Number one, starting point, which is you're starting a new project, which is going to be cold calling. Then you get up and then you realize you've got enthusiasm. Then you start realizing, oh my God, I'm not converting. Why am I here? And most people quit right here and they go back and they repeat the cycle over and over and over and over again. And that's why most agents have been in the industry for 1, 2, 5, 10 years, and they keep repeating the same year over and over and over, wondering why their business isn't growing. Whereas if you just had the ability to get to this side of the equation, right here and right here, that your business would grow because you would be able to get the raw attention at mass scale into your service and solve the number one thing that's holding you back right now. How do we do it? Well, let's go ahead and look at this because this is going to be a really critical theme for you to understand. This is an accordion, and on this side, you're going to have more. And on this side, you're going to have better. Accordions stretch in, out. The solution in the beginning for 99% of people is always going to be more. Why? The more cold calls you make, the more YouTube videos you put out, the better you get at it inherently. Repetition is the mother of mastery, right? Tony Robbins, my mentor, met him many times. He talks about this, is the more repetitions, the better you naturally get. But how do you decide when you should be doing more or when you should be doing better? In the beginning, it's always more. If you're putting out YouTube videos, put out more. If you're cold calling, cold call more. If you're door knocking, knock more doors. In the beginning, if you're under 6 figures a year, it is guaranteed to be more. When do you know whether you should be focusing on doing better versus more? That is an equation where once better eclipses the value of more, you should be doing better. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're doing 100 cold calls and you're converting at, 2%, and then you're getting paid. Well, in the beginning, 100 cold calls isn't a lot. So I would focus on doing 200 calls. If you cannot convert at the same percentage, that's when you should be doing more. Let me give you a better example. Let's say you're putting out, one video a week on YouTube. It's almost always better to do 2 videos a week. However, if you are trying to decide whether to do 3 videos a week or do 2 better videos a week, you have to see the accumulation of the engagement, the views, and look at the conversion rates. So what I'm saying here is, in the beginning, your focus should be more. Once more becomes the law of diminishing returns, meaning that as you do more, your conversion rate drops and you get less tangible results. You then need to switch to doing better. Because if you can do, 200 phone calls and get it to a 3%, your business is going to exponentially scale, because not only did you do more, but you also did better. But most people spend all of their time on the better instead of just doing more. And my recommendation to you, going back to the formula up here, is that in the beginning, it is almost always a case of doing more. So where do we go from here? The fix. This is going to be the most critical part. Pick one primary avenue of attention. Doesn't matter what it is. It all works. Everything in real estate works if you do the work. The work works every time. So pick one, whatever you're most comfortable with, whatever you're willing to fully commit to 110% all in for the next 12 months. Pick one. Then we need to look at the rule of 100 times 2. So what is the rule of 100? Well, there's 2 different variations of this. So you've got 100, 100. They're both kind of in tandem, but both really help you understand what you need to do going forward. The first rule of 100 is that if you spend 100 hours on any activity, you'll be better than 95% of anybody else at that activity. So in the beginning, if you're cold calling and you've done, 100 cold calls, which took you 3 hours, right? Which it should max if you're using a dialer. Well, you still have 97 hours left to go, right? You're going to get pretty good if you do 100 hours of anything. And that's when you're going to be better than 95% of your competition at that one thing. That's 15 minutes per day. So you wonder why people that have been doing it for 2 years are now 95% better of the remaining 5%. You do it for 3 years. You can start to see how you can get really good at anything. That's why it's really critical to commit to this process for an extended period of time. The other rule of 100 is, let's look at YouTube videos. You should not judge yourself before you get 100 repetitions in or 100 videos out. You should be focused on getting better every video, but you should not judge yourself for not getting the tangible results. Your only focus should be getting the repetitions in and improving every single time. These 2 are critical. The next thing is going to be the 90-91 method. What is the 90-91 method? This is something that will change your business immediately today if you apply it. For the next 90 days, spend the first 90 minutes on your number 1 priority, which we just talked about is going to be getting attention from the raw eyeballs, which is going to be your one primary vehicle of attention. The next 90 days, spend the first 90 minutes of your working hours and working day on that number 1 priority. That's it. That's all. If you do that for 90 days, number 1, it takes 30 days to build a habit. Number 2, you are going to get incredible at this. Do it. Also, stop chasing 2 rabbits, master 1. This is one of the biggest quotes that my mentor shared with me, which is that the man who chases 2 rabbits catches none. And trust me, I've got many of them in the backyard here, and they're fast as hell. So with that being said, if you're trying to master and you're trying to do, right, going back to our little chart up here, we've got raw attention, we've got our service, and we've got money. If you're trying to do cold calling, but then simultaneously you're trying to get excellent at, door knocking or YouTube, for example, it's going to be really difficult. And honestly, it's going to be the law of diminishing returns for you. Because if you channel all of your energy into doing more and better, raw attention converting with one avenue, your business will scale. Once you no longer have a cash flow problem or a commission problem, that's when you then add in another layer, one that hopefully is going to give you more leverage. Because I don't know if you're like me, but I door knocked in the beginning. I hated it, but I did it for 3 hours a day, every single day for the first 6 months. And that got me enough income in order to say, hey, I don't want to do this forever. I need to start focusing on more leverage, which is when I first went all in on social media. And then eventually I landed on YouTube, which creates the most leverage because if you put out a video today, it essentially door knocks and cold calls for you 24/7, 365 going forward. Pick one method. And if you pick one method and you focus all of your time going forward on raw attention, your business will scale. And I'm going to prove this to you. If you look at the amount of go look at your MLS and look at the number of homes that sold in the last 30 days. And then you look at the number of calls or doors you could knock per day. And if you knocked or called for 12 hours per day, statistically, it would be impossible for you not to make contact with a potential seller or buyer. The math works, and you cannot argue ego and emotion with math. And so look at that equation. If you prospect every day for 12 hours a day, you're guaranteed to get clients. Unless you're terrible and didn't focus on practicing your scripts and objection handlers and you don't really care, you're just going for numbers. But you get what I'm saying, is that if you do something enough, you will get the results. The problem is most people, instead of looking at the real problem of the fact that they could actually play a numbers game and guarantee that they get in front of potential buyers and sellers, they start playing the easy game, which is to tinker with their black box, play around with the strategies, jump from valley of despair to valley of despair, and then they wonder why they're not scaling. Now, if you want to know how to leverage YouTube in order to generate 6 figures, not just in a year, but in a month, you can check out this next video and I'll show you how to do it. But hopefully that gives you an understanding of what your real problem is. And if you have any questions about this, drop a comment below. I love you. I want you to win. I don't want you to be part of the 74% that aren't closing deals. This can be your year, but you're going to have to do the things that are difficult now.